You're hot. Are you serious or messing with me? No, I'm serious. Feeling is mutual. Is that bad?
Yes. So these two clocks are, we are synchronizing these clocks to an event that is happening at the same time.
The only way he could get this kind of an injury was to fall backwards, hit the back of his head.
I feel great. I'm anxious. I'm ready to put on our case, which will be more robust than it was last year. So I'm anxious for everyone to learn what we know.
Defendant Karen Reed saying she's anxious to put on her case. The prosecution could be wrapping up this week, so we're looking ahead to the more robust defense expected this time around. Plus, the Hawaii woman who was allegedly attacked by her husband on a popular hiking trail is set to testify against him. The latest legal moves from Arielle Konig this morning. And also this hour, reaction pouring in about rapper Kid Cudi's testimony. Will he regret testifying against Diddy in his federal criminal trial? And we're looking ahead to another huge day in New York City as the music mogul's former assistant is set to take the stand. So how will Diddy's employees tip the scales of justice? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you, or Tuesday morning. Gosh, it feels like a Monday to me, I think, because we had the holiday off. I'm Julie Grant. This is Opening Statements. We hope you had a very restful weekend, and we're ready to get back into the court week. So let's start it off this morning, as we always do. We got a great show planned. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. It's a show. Trial is a performance. And in some ways, execution can matter even more than substance. For Sean Diddy Combs, this trial involves the biggest performance of his lifetime. His liberty's on the line, so the stakes don't get any higher than that. Every movement he makes in front of the jury matters. His facial expressions, his head movements, his choice of courtroom attire, the jurors notice all of it. And my friends, I was thinking about this a lot. I would go so far as to say that being a professional performer plays largely to Diddy's advantage in front of this jury. Here's why. His experience both as a stage performer and a behind-the-scenes producer are invaluable in a situation like this because he has a heightened awareness with an audience. He knows how to sell them what they're buying. And that kind of strategic awareness is crucial when you're putting on a show at a trial. Everything you do at trial is deliberate. It's coordinated. It is produced. My friends, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This case is not a slam dunk for either side. But I would say that when it comes to optics and showmanship, Diddy definitely has an advantage. That's my opening statement on this Tuesday morning. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
This case in particular just, I guess it caused so much emotions to rise to the surface for all the girls that are missing, and how he was a troller. He trolled the bars, he trolled the internet, he trolled the neighborhoods, and he was looking for girls like Sade. And he found one, if not many.
In Wisconsin, jury selection begins today in the deadly first-state murder trial for defendant Maxwell Anderson. This guy's charged in connection with the death and the disappearance of beautiful 19-year-old Sade Robinson. We'll follow that case for you closely. And in New York City, the case I was just talking about starts back up after the long holiday weekend. Diddy's federal sex trafficking trial starts at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and Court TV is there. And in Massachusetts, we've got another trial starting up after an extra long holiday weekend. Karen Reed's retrial resumes this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and that is our top story. It is week 6, and the prosecution has said that they're ahead of schedule, and they could be resting their case soon. So this morning, we're looking ahead to Karen Reed's defense case. We know that she's cloaked in the presumption of innocence. It's up to the Commonwealth to prove her guilty. It's up to them. Now, a defendant can choose to present a defense if they want, and the jury can never hold it against them if they don't. And here, Karen Reed is choosing to present a defense once again. Take a listen to what she said to Court TV after court concluded on Wednesday.
I feel great. I'm anxious. I'm ready to put on our case, which will be more robust than it was last year. So I'm anxious for everyone to learn what we know.
What differences will you have for your case?
More witnesses, broader and deeper.
Okay, so how will Karen Reed's robust defense be different this time around? I've got two great guests standing by to talk about it. I want to bring them in now. Attorney Randolph Rice, he practices in the private sector, now formerly a prosecuting attorney, and someone who's been in the courtroom throughout this case, and the first one, the creator and the host of the show Road Patrol Live, John DePietro. Good morning to you both. Oh gosh, so let's start where we're leaving off, right? We're leaving off with the prosecution still in its case. John, you've been watching the jury week in and week out. Tell us, please, any big reactions that you've seen, any big moments throughout the progression of the state's case?
Leaving off with Dr. Wolf before the long weekend, I mean, that was a moment in the courtroom. I think things changed. He was just, this is someone, you know, we've heard about John O'Keefe's cell phone. We've seen his clothes, but this was someone that studied the effects on his brain. And what was so powerful about Dr. Wolf going into the long weekend was he basically crushed the third-party culprit idea that he was beaten in the house. What he talked about, and the lead up to this by Hank Brennan was perfect, Julie, and that was that her vehicle went backwards, that his cell phone stopped moving, and then he talked about the impact on John O'Keefe's skull. And it is difficult as it is. But I thought this was really, really dramatic. And that was that even, let's just go along with the Commonwealth, that, you know, she hit him. Even if someone had called 911 right away, he only had a 30% chance of survival. Dr. Wolf, Julie, he laid out the case that basically that John O'Keefe was brain dead after he had been struck by the vehicle, the collision. That sets up a really high bar to me for the defense to get back.
Yeah, it really does. John, thank you for the refresher on that, the explainer. And yeah, really the large point of Dr. Wolf's testimony, as you both know, was to explain how John O'Keefe died, that head injury that has been opined about. Lots of people have opinions on it. Let's go back and listen to Dr. Wolf himself talking about what happened when he says John O'Keefe fell backwards.
Did you have an opportunity to review photographs of a laceration to Mr. John O'Keefe's head?
Yes, I did.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether this injury, the laceration and the basal fracture, was caused by Mr. O'Keefe falling backwards on the ground?
My opinion is that that's what caused his whole injury.
Randolph Rice, tell me, looking at this case from the defense perspective, if you would, please, how might you refute Dr. Wolf's testimony, or at least try to, if you're Karen Reed's defense team?
Yeah, and this becomes the battle of the experts. And does your expert have a better opinion? Can your expert explain this better, give a better opinion and an alternative explanation as to why or how these injuries were sustained, and thus consistent with your defense that it happened inside the house and not because of being struck and knocked down and hitting your head on the front lawn that night?
Right, Randolph. Yeah, we'll see who they potentially have to bring in here. I want to play a clip for you both of something we've seen throughout the progression of this case, and that's clips of the defendant herself speaking. We don't know if her testimony is going to be part of this robust defense. It may be, maybe not, who knows. The jury can't hold it against her if she doesn't testify. Let's take a look at some of what the state presented.
I describe this to everyone, so you've probably heard this before, but John looked like a buffalo on the prairie. It was just a lawn and a heat that it wasn't a bush or a hydrant or a dog. It was a weird shaped lump at that time in those elements. And I was looking to find him on the side of the road. I was expecting I'd find him.
That right there, one of the most stunning clips, arguably one of the most damaging as well, saying, I was looking to find him on the side of the road. What in the world, when this woman also said she saw him go in the house. She also said she didn't see him go in the house. John DePietro, how has the jury been reacting to seeing those clips of her?
You know, Julie, it's so dramatic in the courtroom when they play, as I call them, the Karen clips, because people need to understand these are on large screens. It's very loud. I've covered trials where each juror has their own small TV screen, or maybe they share. But this is large. These are big flat screen TVs. Julie, the jury has watched Hank Brennan build for them very easy to understand narrative. And he's in a real rhythm. Something that I think that's thrown off the defense is that by using the various attorneys, whether it's Alan Jackson or David Yannetti or Robert Alessi, none of them get into a rhythm with the jury. The jury has a very strong narrative that I notice. They really respond to Hank Brennan. They perk up when he gets up. I think he has brought them along to this point in the case, and now, you know, they're ready to kind of punch it through into the end zone with the accident reconstruction. But thus far, these Karen clips, Julie, the effect in the courtroom, and she's just sitting there and saying these, you know, bizarre, very incriminating things. I think that really, those clips, that clip you just played, Julie Grant, that has been one of the biggest differences in this retrial.
Most definitely, John, most definitely. And I love the point you made about how when you have one attorney primarily, we know Adam Lally has been in there here and there doing a couple different examinations of a few experts, but primarily it's Hank Brennan. John, you're right. There's an attachment that forms. Randolph, curious what you think about that, about the defense strategy to bring many lawyers, have many people in front of the jury at different times for different purposes versus Hank Brennan's decision to have one voice primarily be the voice speaking to them.
Well, it's a lot different when you're the prosecutor, because a lot of times, remember, the prosecution is asking those open-ended questions. So it's sort of like a what happened next? What happened next? You need to know the science, you need to know the data, but you don't need to know it as well as the defense attorneys. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why the defense has so many different lawyers, because there's so much specialized knowledge that you have to dive deep into these experts. And so for one lawyer to do that, it's very difficult. And I think that's why they sort of divided and conquered in this scenario.
Gotcha. Randolph, thank you. John DePietro, let me ask you, please, as somebody who covered the first trial in the courtroom, you're covering the second one, you'll be in the courtroom today after you say goodbye to us in a couple minutes. What do you think, if you had to give your best educated guess on what this robust defense may mean? I'm curious if you have any thoughts or theories on what exactly this defendant means by that, and perhaps if she means testifying herself.
We can only pray, Julie. I don't know what that means, only because I think it really sets up that Hank Brennan has really done a brilliant job at laying out the Commonwealth's argument and presenting the case of exactly what happened here. Some obvious things, you know, Dr. Wolf was really damaging testimony. The amount of data they've used that have this event outside of the home, outside the flagpole, I think the defense has to try to cut into the narrative, The demonstration of her vehicle paired up with his cell phone, and then how they kind of matched it right there, and then after she backed up, the cell phone stopped moving. The defense has to do something because they're nowhere close to getting inside the house. I think they're going to have to try to create some kind of confusion as to what must have happened outside the house. Because, Julie, make no mistake about it, Hank Brennan and this jury, they are all outside the house by the flagpole. Now it's just a question if the defense can poke a hole into what happened. Because I think right now, especially after Dr. Wolf, it seems pretty clear what has happened in this case.
John, great analysis. You're right. You know, people can tell stories and as many as they want, and as often as they want, as loudly as they want, outside of the courtroom. But the story that matters is the one that's with the jury, the one that's being proven by the evidence and the facts. So thank you kindly. Excellent analysis as always. John DePietro, we'll let you go. Look forward to following you on social today. Thank you so much. Randolph Rice is coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, here's what's ahead for you on Opening Statements.
I think you mentioned this, but was your car able to be repaired?
No.
What was your reaction to your car being set on fire?
What the?
Does rapper Kid Cudi regret testifying in Diddy's case? We'll talk about it. But first, the wife of the Maui doctor who allegedly tried to kill her on a popular hiking trail is back in court, and she's making a bold legal move.
Sade Robinson left for a first date, but never returned home.
Now, Maxwell Anderson faces a jury charged with this gruesome murder.
The deadly first date murder trial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
The WNBA is on Ion Friday night. That's awesome. Friday, temperatures rise when the sun takes on Caitlin and the Fever. Then the Sparks go all in against Asia and the Aces. Coverage begins Friday at 7. Find Ion wherever you watch. Ion, it's on.
Welcome back. The Trouble in Paradise case is what's trending in true crime this morning, as the wife of the Maui doctor, Gerhard Konig, has dropped her request for a temporary restraining order.
For those reasons, my client believes the TRO at this time is not necessary to prevent further harm because he's being held without bail and there's no possibility of release at this time. And so we reached an agreement that this TRO proceeding will be dismissed without prejudice, subject to further refiling if his custody status changes at any time.
So on Friday, Arielle Konig appeared in front of a judge along with her attorney to request the dismissal of the temporary restraining order that she initially requested. So she filed this against her husband after he allegedly tried to kill her by pushing her off a cliff. Now, her attorney told the court that this was no longer necessary because the doctor's in jail being held without any bond. So the judge, of course, approved that request. No objection from Gerhard Konig's attorney. After the hearing, Arielle Konig's attorney described her decision to the reporters who were gathered there covering the hearing, while also revealing his client's intentions if the case makes it to trial. Take a listen.
Because of the ongoing media coverage and having to testify for the grand jury, she's made statements to police, and so she just wants to get back to some semblance of her normal life. So having to go through another proceeding at this time, which is at this point unnecessary, didn't make much sense for her. If he goes to trial, she absolutely will be testifying in trial. Yes, but we anticipate that the trial will likely be continued. And just to be clear, she's not rescinding her allegations. She's not dropping her allegations. This was a procedural reason why we dropped this, why the TRO was dismissed, only because of the custody status.
So the question we have for our power panel this morning: what's your reaction to Arielle Konig wanting to testify in this case against her husband if he decides to take it to trial? I want to bring in two brilliant ladies. Both of them have expertise in the area of domestic violence. Attorney Melba Pearson and former police officer Claudia King. Good morning to you both. All right, so your reactions, first thing you thought when you heard this alleged victim wants to come to court, wants to testify against her alleged batterer. Melba, would you start us off, please?
Good morning, ladies. And my first thought was, bravo, and I hope she has the support she needs. So it shows to me that she has come, I guess, a good way in her healing, and she feels that strong enough to be able to confront him and really, point the finger and be like, you tried to kill me. Like, this wasn't an accident. This wasn't, anything else. You tried to kill me. And I think it's going to be so powerful for the jury to hear her and to hear her story. But again, I do always make sure to have concern as to whether or not she has enough of a support system, because again, this is a traumatizing event, and testifying can be traumatizing as well.
Oh, great points, Melba. Thank you. Claudia, your initial reaction, please, when you heard about this.
I echo Melba's bravo to her, because we see so many victims who do change their mind after a violent attack or incident. They end up dropping charges or saying they don't want to testify, and they end up getting back together with the abuser. So I was really excited to hear that she is ready to testify. She has gone through a lot in a short period of time. She apparently has identified some escalation in his behavior. So I think it is wonderful. And I also echo Melba's thoughts that I hope she has the support system that she needs, because this is not going to be easier anytime soon. It's going to be more difficult until she can get through this process and then hopefully begin her healing.
Right, Claudia. Yeah, I love that point as well. You know, the incident may be over, but this point in her life is far, far from over. When we think about what this decision from her, this very strong, courageous, I have so much admiration for this woman, this very brave decision to say, you know what, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to give my testimony, I'm going to come to court. What might that do to the defendant in terms of his next move? Melba, I'd love to ask you your thoughts on that, please.
Well, it definitely changes the complexion, of the defense case, because now they know that they have a cooperative victim. They know that that person's going to be able to give direct testimony as to what happened, as well as the background, including the escalation, including all of the warning signs she may have inadvertently missed. And so it's going to strengthen the prosecution's case, tenfold. So the question is he going to want to confront her in court, or is he going to want to take a plea? And that's going to be basically the question for him.
Right, Melba. Yeah, the first thing I thought of, I wonder if this will mean he may want to plead. We know he's legally cloaked in the presumption of innocence. We just know that these are bad facts with two independent witnesses who made a 911 call to save her life. So we've got corroboration here, as you both know, not just the alleged victim's testimony, but independent people who would have no reason to come to court and lie. Yeah, he's got a very weighty decision to make. Claudia, tell me, in terms of that support system, if we could go back to that, ideally, what would you say ideally for Arielle Konig? What would be the things you would want her to have as she begins this healing journey?
Well, the first thing I think is what her attorney talked about, and that was reducing the number of times that she has to go to court and tell this horrific story. So I do think it was a great idea to let the TRO go at this point, because it's unnecessary legally based on his current status. But in addition to that, I really hope that she's starting some kind of therapy. She really needs to be able to talk this out with an independent party, talk through how she's feeling. If she is feeling guilt because, did I miss something? What did I do wrong? How did I cause this? She needs to be able to talk through that. And then hopefully she's got some strong family and friends to surround her, because even in court, he may try to give her a look or a glance, or try to get in touch with her some other way, even if he's not supposed to try to convince her to let all this go and that he loves her. So hopefully she has that family and friend support around her to tell her that, yes, you are making the right decision, you're doing the right thing, stay strong, and we're going to get through this together.
Oh, excellent advice, Claudia. Thank you. I want to dovetail off of something you said, how in domestic violence situations, a batterer could control a victim with something seemingly as insignificant as a glance, a certain glance or a certain movement. Melba, would you speak to the pressures prosecutors have when you have to consider two people, right? You're considering what you want to do, with your defendant, and also whether you have a cooperative victim, whether there needs to be any convincing, how to protect your victim. Would you kind of speak to how you watch out for certain threatening signals?
Yeah, and that's always a tough one, because again, those signals look different from relationship to relationship. So what may have worked with a prior, a victim, a prior survivor in the last case may be completely different with completely different triggers in the instant case. So you need to have a very close and open relationship and discussion with your survivor on a regular basis. You need to engage with your victim advocates in your office to make sure that they're getting the support they need. If they're getting a phone call, an email, a text text message, maybe not from the defendant, but his family members or something like that, you've got to have that open communication that they feel comfortable and safe to be able to disclose that they're being threatened. And even the day of, you have, if you can, you sit next to them, you have your team members sit next to them so they always feel protected. And once that relationship has developed over time, if the defendant is giving that look that starts to trigger the victim, at least there's someone there to be like, hey, listen, we got you. I mean, I've had instances where doing victims' rights work where literally the survivor started shaking and crying at the sight of the defendant. And you have to know just kind of how to talk them down and calm them and let them know they're now in a safe situation and that this is not going to cost them their lives.
Right. Melba, everything you're saying, it was just like getting all the feelings, like the chills, what that's like. Because, for anybody who hasn't been there, and I hope nobody has to go, I mean, criminal court is awkward, uncomfortable, and you're very close in proximity. And so for victims who've been badly beaten, or, in this case, this woman who, this is an attempted homicide that prosecutors have here where she was seconds from her life being ended, according to her testimony and testimony of these other witnesses. And then they've got to come face to face with that person who, and be feet from them. It's incredibly traumatizing. You both are so understanding of it and have done such great work for survivors of domestic violence. Thank you both for your insight and what you do in the prevention movement. Claudia King, I'm going to see you in about a half hour from now. You'll be back for Court TV Live. And Melba Pearson's coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
I got a call from Cassie around 5:30, 6 a.m., and she told me that Sean Combs had found out about us. I was really confused, but she asked me to pick her up. She sounded really stressed on the phone, nervous, scared, so I went to go pick her up.
We're spotlighting Diddy's criminal case and the backlash from rapper Kid Cudi's testimony. Next. Thanks for staying with us. So this morning, we're shining our spotlight on what lies ahead for Kid Cudi after last week's explosive testimony. So where does the trial and Kid Cudi go from here? So Cudi called Combs a liar on the stand and insinuated that the former music mogul blew up his Porsche. Already, the backlash has been quick and swift from the rap industry. Controversial figure Kanye West put in his 2 cents. He said he wishes, quote, Cudi hadn't testified against Puff. West has been a staunch supporter of Combs's from the very beginning. And he's not getting any love from fellow rapper Young Thug either. Thug going so far as to call Cudi a rat for testifying. Now, for the record, Cudi had no choice but to testify. You don't ignore a federal subpoena, or else you get tossed in jail. Now, here's Cudi's testimony. Here's a little clip of it. Remember, there's no cameras in federal court, so we have to use AI technology in the court transcript. We marry them together. So we want to give you a little taste of what it was like when Cudi was on the stand. Take a look.
Mr. Combs made it clear to you that he was also confused. True?
True.
Just like you, he's similarly situated. He did not, to your knowledge, know that you were dating Ms. Ventura. True?
Yes. True.
And he wants to understand, how did this happen? And you want to understand, how did this happen, basically, right?
Yes.
And Ms. Ventura was living 2 different lives. Is that true?
Yes.
Objection.
Overruled. When you went in that room with Mr. Combs, no weapons, to your knowledge. True.
No.
He definitely didn't threaten you. True.
No.
In fact, he was gracious. I think your word was really calm.
Yeah.
And you were professional as well, true?
Yes.
And it was an understanding, a meeting that this was about a girl, a relationship, and both of you guys were played. That's pretty much how it ended, true?
True.
And the person who played you is the same person who played Sean. It's Ms. Ventura, true?
True.
To your knowledge, we're approximately, if you don't mind, approximately 13 and a half years after January 9th, 2012, when your car was damaged. Is that approximately true?
Yes.
To your knowledge, no one has been charged or arrested for the damage to your car. Am I right?
No.
Objection.
Sustained. The jury should disregard the witness's last answer.
In the 13 and a half years that has passed in California, Have you ever been notified that there's been any other action on this case in California?
Action on?
The car, the damage to the car.
No.
Do you remember back when you were with Ms. Ventura, did she have multiple phones, if you can remember?
I don't think I remembered that.
Do you remember telling that to law enforcement, that she had multiple phones?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Can I ask you to look at something in this honorable court, with this court's permission, to see if it jogs your memory?
Yeah. If I said it, I guess I said it.
Do you know what a burner phone is? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
With regards to the night of the trespass in your home, I think you called it a break-in. I guess more narrowed to trespass, but that's what I'm talking about, okay?
Right.
You received a phone call from Ms. Ventura explaining that she gave your home address to Combs. Do you remember that?
The morning of, not the evening.
About 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning. Fair to say?
Yes.
I'm just trying to coordinate you.
Yeah.
And that information about your address, according to what you were told, came from Ms. Ventura to Mr. Combs?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about it. Will Kid Cudi regret testifying against Diddy? I want to welcome in entertainment commentator, actress, and photographer Holland Reed. Holland, good morning. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think? Do you think Cudi is going to have some regret?
Oh, God. Good morning, Julie. First of all, no. This is not the age or the era of being silent. That has been the problem in all of these industries for decades, for years. It is literally institutional silence that has been the staple of the music industry. This is the Me Too movement of the music industry, and Cassie hopefully will be, I hate to say that she would be the face of it, but this whole entire situation with Diddy is exposing the underlying problems that have been going on forever. Silence, I said it last time, silence is loyalty, and that's what the currency is. No, I don't think he's going to regret it because he did speak up. Now, I will say that the defense and the prosecution are doing their job. Thank God. This is a very good trial to watch. Everyone's doing their job. They're trying to discredit Cudi and Cassie, the relationships, but in the same breath, you are absolutely confirming what has been going on in the music industry for decades. And so I don't think he's going to regret it. I think that if you're choosing between ponying up to rubbing elbows a little bit longer with a Diddy or anybody else versus your soul and your integrity, then we're going to go on Team Cudi for this one.
Right. Oh, I love what you just said there, Holland. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, I would say probably, at least from what I've seen on social, it looks like the overwhelming majority of people are Team Cudi, on this one. And yeah, I mean, taking a stand. And look, I can't emphasize this enough. He was subpoenaed to come to federal court. So it was going to get done one of two ways. Either he was going to come willingly, like we saw him, rocking his leather jacket, his jeans, his sneakers, smoking a cigarette as he was going in there. I don't think he was like jumping for joy to get in the courtroom. Or they could say, okay, well, we will get a material witness warrant for you, Mr. Cudi, if you don't show up, and we will have the marshals to bring you in. I mean, it could be like, look, do it the easy way, do it the hard way. It was going to get done. Holland, tell me, I want to zone in on what Young Thug said, okay? So Thug is calling him a rat. To me, look, I was a prosecutor, and informants are very helpful to the justice system. They are. They get called rats, whatever. To me, there's a big distinction as somebody who's working with the government or the state to inform, to let the state know about criminal conduct versus somebody who just gets subpoenaed because they had their car blown up through no fault of their own. Do you agree that, like, I don't think that the rat characterization is appropriate here? Your thoughts?
Okay, so my thoughts on this are this is a RICO trial. What they're trying to do is establish, as you know this, and I'm not, again, I pretend like I feel like I want to be a lawyer, but I'm not. But where they're trying to establish.
We say it all the time.
Man, listen, we'll talk about that later.
Yes, girl.
The thing is, Diddy was an enterprise. He's not just a man. He was a machine. And he used that machine, and he used the people around him, assistants. Young Thug saying that, honestly, in my opinion, confirms that this was a system. This was systemic. This was a machine. This was an organization. If you are a rat and you are a mobster, if you are, the Don Corleone, whatever, old school, type of mob mentality, you're confirming that by calling someone a rat. So when you're saying that someone is speaking out against the organization, then there's an organization. And I feel like that is where this is all going to come tumbling down, is that Diddy is not one person. Where are the other co-conspirators? Where are the other enablers? There are plea deals, and people are flipping left and right behind closed doors, whether we see it or not. But that right there, Young Thug's commentary, literally for me, confirmed that that he was ratting out an organization. The silence. You are exposing the industry. You are exposing the machine. And that right there is a part of the RICO case that I think will stick.
You are so brilliant, my friend. Bravo. That analysis is outstanding. You got me thinking, as you're talking, like my wheels are turning. Because, you think about Thug was in the same position. He had RICO charges. He was being accused.
In the same position.
Right? Of being the leader of the enterprise. Yes. And then, what about all the people? There were, I think 28 defendants initially, and 5 of them went to trial. Did he call all of them rats? Because they pleaded?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Apples
and that's what I
oranges.
believe. That's what I believe. As a Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Holland, love having you on this show. I can't wait to see what this week brings as we're getting ready for the 3rd week of the Diddy trial. More employees set to take the stand today. I know you have to get on with your busy day, but thank you so much for everything this morning. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
And when we come back after the break, we'll continue our Diddy coverage. We're talking about the employees, really keying in on how they can help substantiate that racketeering conspiracy charge. And we're moments away from defendant Karen Reed's retrial resuming in Dedham, Massachusetts.
Karen Reed is in the midst of the retrial of the century.
She is factually innocent. She's guilty. There's something wrong in this county. Come at me.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
2 big trials and neither lacking drama. We're previewing each day's proceedings as Sean Diddy Combs and Karen Reed face justice.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Lots of empty bottles, empty Gatorade bottles, empty liquor bottles, and often baby oil.
Where did you see baby oil?
On the table, on the floor, on the bed, around the room.
He mentioned that when we were out of the country, that Scott's car would be blown up. He wanted his friends to be there to see it.
While you were employed by Mr. Combs, did you ever observe him using drugs?
Yes.
What kinds of drugs?
Weed, ketamine, cocaine, Molly, E.
How frequently did Mr. Combs do drugs, in your observation?
I would say every day.
Did he do drugs during the day?
He would take Percocets throughout the day.
Let's talk about what could be tipping the scales of justice when court gets back underway this morning in Diddy's federal trial. They had a 4-day-long holiday break. Last week, the testimony was explosive with rapper Kid Cudi on the stand. This week, set to begin with a former personal assistant of Diddy's, Capricorn Clark, is a key witness to the government's alleged racketeering conspiracy case. Now, prosecutors are claiming that Clark witnessed Diddy's physical abuse of Cassie Ventura. And on Thursday, jurors also heard from George Kaplan, a former assistant for Diddy as well, who had this to say about working for the Music Mogul. Despite leaving because the violence was horrible, Combs' former assistant still has some high praise for him. As he described their dynamic, Kaplan said Combs was, quote, a god among men. He said that working for Combs was a, quote, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So, how important are these former employees to the government's case? In particular, proving count 1, the racketeering conspiracy charge. Let's bring back in attorneys Melba Pearson and Randolph Rice. Randolph, would you start us off, please? Your thoughts on the importance of the former assistants?
They're essential. You need them to establish this continued pattern within this enterprise. You need to have them testify that They bought the baby oil. They bought the drugs. They transported the drugs. They transported people. They helped do all the things that Diddy was directing them to do, which goes towards the RICO charge. So it is essential to the government's case to have these witnesses come up there and testify.
Right. I've got a little more, Randolph. Thank you for that. From George Kaplan. He described an incident of physical abuse pertaining to Cassie. He said that they were on a private jet back in 2015, and he said he heard glass breaking, saw Combs standing over Cassie Ventura, and told the jury he heard her scream out, "Isn't anybody seeing this?" Melba, when I heard that testimony, that right there just gave me chills envisioning this. Your thoughts on what his testimony right there does for the case?
It speaks to the culture of silence. It speaks to the fact that the employees either A, did not feel empowered enough to try and intervene and stop what was happening, or B, that they also just didn't care. But the fact of the matter is that Diddy felt so comfortable committing crimes, because let's not get it twisted, abusing someone is a crime, hitting someone is a crime. The fact that he felt so comfortable doing that in front of his staff really speaks to that culture, as well as that crazy line when they talked about, I think it was one of the executives said, that it pointed to the picture of Diddy and said, you know, this is Mr. Combs' kingdom, we're just here to serve him. So again, it speaks to that mentality of the staff will do anything to protect him, to stand by him, which can then feed into criminal activity and get closer to the RICO charge.
Yes, Melba, thank you. Thank you for bringing up that line. It was from David James, another one of the former assistants. We made a graphic out of it. This was so key. This is Mr. Combs' kingdom. We're all here to serve in it. Wow. Randolph Rice, what does that line right there tell you about this alleged racketeering conspiracy?
It speaks to the core of the government's case that we were all here to serve Mr. Combs. We were all here to do whatever he says, and he wanted to do things that were illegal. And that ultimately is why he's in a courthouse in New York right now, because he was using this kingdom to control, to commit crimes, and to do the things that ultimately may end up making him spend the rest of his life in prison.
Yeah, great points, Randolph. I want to play a clip for both of you. Although we may not think of this witness as an employee of Diddy's, because we think of her as an artist, she's famous. Dawn Richard was one of the witnesses. She worked for Diddy. You know, she's an employee as well as his assistants. Let's take a listen to some of what she said when she was recounting for the jury what it felt like to her to be threatened by Combs.
What, if any, threats would Mr. Combs make to you?
Y'all are going to pay for it. It's always you do this or else something bad will happen to you. It was always that, like a threat, that if you didn't stay in line, there was consequences.
What was Mr. Combs' demeanor when he made these threats?
Sometimes it was a stern, like, moment to say it, and other times it was loud, angry, violent, and like, it's mean. It was mean.
Melba, your thoughts on Dawn Richard right there talking about the feeling inside of her when she would be threatened?
Again, it's back to that culture of fear. And that is the same fear in a lot of ways that Cassie felt. Why she didn't leave, why she continued to participate in freak-offs even though it was disgusting and, you know, her body was falling apart as a result of all this brutality she was enduring. It is a common theme that we're seeing throughout this case is that people were in fear of Diddy. They were in awe, but they were also in fear of him. And what would that fear make them do? What would that fear drive them to do? And I think we're seeing the answer to that every single day as we have more and more witnesses come forward.
Excellent points from you both. Tremendous analysis, as always. Attorneys Melba Pearson and Randolph Rice, thank you so much for your time and your expertise this morning. And Diddy's case will continue at 9 a.m. Eastern Time with more testimony from those former assistants, which should arguably tip the scales of justice for the government. What we're going to do here is take a break. My friends, thank you for tuning in for opening statements. If you'd like to watch the episode again, share it with your friends. You can do that. We put the episodes up every weekday morning. Just go to your favorite website, courttv.com. Click on that red shows tab right there at the top, and you can watch the episode again. You can share it.